The Two Jugglers. Part 2, Chinese Folk Tale. After fumbling in the box for some moments, he drew out a skein of golden thread, fine spun and as light as gossamer. No sooner had he unwound a portion of this thread than a sudden gust of wind carried it up into the air above the heads of the onlookers. Faster and faster the old man paid out the magic coil, higher and higher the free end rose into the heavens, until, strain his eyes as he would, no one present could see into what far region it had vanished. "Wonderful, wonderful," shouted the people with one voice, "the old man is a fairy." For a moment they forgot all about the mandarin, the jugglers, and the peach, so amazed were they at beholding the flight of the magic thread. At last the old man seemed satisfied with the distance to which his court had sailed, and, with a bow to the spectators, he tied the end to a large wooden pillar which helped to support the roof of the grand stand. For a moment the structure trembled and swayed as if it too would be carried off into the blue ether. The guests turned pale and clutched their chairs for support, but not even the mandarin dared to speak, so sure were they now that they were in the presence of fairies. "Everything is ready for the journey," said old Ching calmly. "What? Shall you leave us?" asked the mayor, finding his voice again. "I? Oh, no, my old bones are not spry enough for quick climbing. My son here will bring us the magic peach. He is handsome and active enough to enter that heavenly garden. Graceful, oh graceful is that peach tree, of course. You remember the line from the poem, and a graceful man must pluck the fruit." The mandarin was still more surprised at the juggler's knowledge of a famous poem from the classics. It made him and his friends all the more certain that the newcomers were indeed fairies. The young man at a sign from his father tightened his belt and the bands about his ankles, and then, with a graceful gesture to the astonished people, sprang upon the magic string, balanced himself for a moment on the steep incline, and then ran as nimbly up as a sailor would have mounted a rope ladder. Higher and higher he climbed till he seemed no bigger than a lark ascending into the blue sky, and then, like some tiny speck, far, far away, on the western horizon. The people gazed in open-mouthed wonder. They were struck dumb and filled with some nameless fear. They hardly dared to look at the enchanter who stood calmly in their midst, smoking his long-stemmed pipe. The mandarin, ashamed of having laughed at and threatened this man who was clearly a fairy, did not know what to say. He snapped his long fingernails and looked at his guests in mute astonishment. The visitors silently drank their tea, and the crowd of sightseers craned their necks in a vain effort to catch sight of the vanished fairy. Only one in all that assembly, a bright-eyed little boy of 8, dared to break the silence, and he caused a hearty burst of merriment by crying out, "Oh, Daddy, will the bad young man fly off into the sky and leave his poor father all alone?" The graybeard laughed loudly with the others, and tossed the lad a copper. "Ah, the good boy," he said smiling, "he has been well trained to love his father, no fear of foreign ways spoiling his filial piety." After a few moments of waiting, old Chang laid aside his pipe and fixed his eyes once more on the western sky. "It is coming," he said quietly, "the peach will soon be here." Suddenly he held out his hand as if to catch some falling object, but, look as they would, the people could see nothing. Swish! Thud! It came like a streak of light, and, lo, there in the magician's fingers was a peach, the most beautiful specimen the people had ever seen, large and rosy. "Straight from the garden of the gods," said Chang, handing the fruit to the mandarin, "a peach in the second moon, and the snow hardly off the ground." Higher and higher he climbed. Trembling with excitement, the official took the peach and cut it open. It was large enough for all his guests to have a taste, and such a taste it was. They smacked their lips and wished for more, secretly thinking that never again would ordinary fruit be worth the eating. But all this time the old juggler, magician, fairy or whatever you choose to call him, was looking anxiously into the sky. The result of this trick was more than he had bargained for. True, he had been able to produce the magic peach which the mandarin had called for, but his son, where was his son? He shaded his eyes and looked far up into the blue heavens, and so did the people, but no one could catch a glimpse of the departed youth. To be continued.